So here's the thing about homemade chicken soup. It's supposed to be comfort in a bowl, right? The universal, I love you and want you to feel better, gesture. Well, I was standing in my own hallway at 12:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, holding that stupid soup container, listening to my sick husband and my best friend discuss how they'd been scamming me for over a year. We can't keep doing this, Owen. She's going to find out eventually. Sienna's voice drifted from our bedroom, low and urgent. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're a subscriber, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The money, the tests you're faking, all of it. When she realizes you're not actually sick anymore. The soup hit the floor. And honestly, that was the least devastating thing that dropped that day. Let me back up, because this story needs context. And trust me, you're going to want to hear how spectacularly I trusted the wrong people. 20 minutes before my world imploded, I was at my desk at Morrison & Associates, elbow deep in blueprints for some pretentious boutique hotel renovation, when Owen texted, "Really struggling today. Can barely move. Don't worry about me, I know you're busy." Cue the guilt. Always the guilt. I'm Nora Castellano, 34, senior architect, and apparently the world's biggest idiot. For 18 months, I'd been splitting myself in half, badass career woman by day, devoted caregiver by night. Owen, my husband of 9 years, had late-stage Lyme disease. Or so I thought. Spoiler alert, I thought wrong about a lot of things. Owen used to be this incredibly vibrant guy. I'm talking about the kind of person who'd volunteer at the community center on Saturdays teaching disabled kids adaptive sports, then come home and convince me to go salsa dancing even though I have 2 left feet. He ran a successful physical therapy practice, had patients who literally cried when they graduated from his care, and could fix basically anything in our house while cracking terrible dad jokes the entire time. We met at some friend's lake house party when we were 22. He was attempting to grill burgers while slightly drunk, I was attempting to sketch the sunset, and we both ended up in the lake after his friend's dog knocked over the grill. Very romantic. Covered in lake water and burger grease. He asked me out right there, soaking wet, and I said yes because anyone who can laugh at themselves while smelling like charcoal and pond scum is probably worth a shot. Our house in Laurelhurst was this 1920s craftsman that we'd been slowly renovating for 5 years. And I mean slowly, like, we'd finish one bathroom and celebrate like we'd built the Taj Mahal. Owen did the heavy lifting, I did the design, and we'd argue about tile choices while drinking cheap beer. Every room was a collaboration. Our kitchen had this exposed brick Owen spent 3 weekends restoring by hand. The master bath had a clawfoot tub I'd scored at an estate sale for $200. The place wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Past tense, as you'll soon understand. Then there's Sienna Whitmore, my best friend since college. We met at freshman orientation at Portland State, both terrified small-town girls trying to figure out how to navigate actual city life. She went into business, I went into architecture, and we bonded over truly terrible dining hall food and shared dreams of not being broke forever. Fast forward 15 years, and Sienna had absolutely crushed it. Senior investment advisor at Cascade Financial Group. Tesla in the driveway. Pearl District condo with views that made you want to weep. The woman wore stilettos that cost more than my monthly car payment and somehow made them look comfortable. But here's the thing, she never made me feel small about it. She'd show up at our house in Target leggings, help me paint walls, bring wine when I landed a big project. When Owen and I finally scraped together enough for a honeymoon 3 years after our wedding, Sienna gave us her family's beach cabin for a week. No charge. Just, go be happy, you deserve it. Her husband Derek was this quiet environmental engineer with a seriously dry sense of humor. The 4 of us just clicked. Monthly dinners. Camping trips. Blazers games where we'd all yell at the refs like we understood basketball. They were family. The chosen kind, which honestly felt more solid than the biological kind sometimes. Everything went sideways 18 months ago when Owen started feeling off. Exhausted. Achy. Brain fog so bad he'd forget conversations we'd had an hour earlier. His doctor brushed it off as stress, but Owen pushed back. Something's wrong, Nora. I know my body. 4 months and 7 doctors later, someone finally tested for Lyme disease. Positive. Late stage. The infectious disease specialist delivered the news with this practiced sympathy that made me want to throw something. Chronic condition. Long-term 4 antibiotics. Possibly years of treatment. Very expensive. Owen's physical therapy practice, the thing he'd built from nothing over a decade, had to be sold. He couldn't do hands-on therapy anymore when he could barely get out of bed. I watched my vibrant, active, help-everyone husband become a shadow who spent most days on our couch, too exhausted to shower, apologizing constantly for being a burden. Sienna swooped in like some kind of financial guardian angel. Let me handle your money situation, she offered over dinner at our place, her hand on mine, her eyes genuinely concerned. Medical debt is vicious. I can optimize what insurance covers, find assistance programs, maybe even clinical trials. You guys have enough to worry about. Derek backed her up. Whatever you need, man. We're here. And God help me, I believed them. I believed every word. Owen's decline was like watching someone fade in slow motion. Month 1 after diagnosis, he tried keeping the practice going, working half-days between infusion treatments. I drive him to the center 3 times a week, hold his hand while nurses inserted the PICC line, watch him wince as antibiotics flooded his system. He'd sleep the entire drive home, then sleep another 4 hours, wake up confused and hurting. By month 3, he sold his practice to a colleague for way less than it was worth because he needed out fast. I found him ugly crying in his office one night, surrounded by patient files. 10 years, he choked out. 10 years building this, and I'm just giving it away because my body quit on me. I held him while he fell apart. What else could I do? Sienna went full financial warrior mode. She showed up one Saturday with her laptop and this intimidating leather portfolio, spreading documents across our dining table like she was planning a military campaign. Okay, here's the plan, she announced with the confidence of someone who'd never bounced a check in her life. Separate medical account for all insurance reimbursements. I'll handle provider payments, track what's covered, find every possible assistance program. You two just focus on Owen getting better. It sounded so logical. So helpful. So completely reasonable that only an ungrateful jerk would question it. Derek transformed our basement into a home gym for Owen, installing handrails and organizing all the therapy equipment Owen couldn't use at his practice anymore. Use it or lose it, Derek said, doing that guy shoulder pat thing. We'll get you back, brother. Their friendship had evolved from polite forced hangouts to genuine brotherhood. They used to spend Sunday mornings mountain biking or working on Derek's vintage motorcycle. Now Derek came over and did gentle stretches with Owen, never showing frustration when Owen couldn't finish, never making him feel weak. Our social life shrank to fit Owen's new reality. Friday nights went from restaurants and concerts to takeout on our couch. Sienna and Derek would bring Thai food or pizza, sit with us, keep things light. They never complained about Owen's constant cancellations or early departures when pain flared. Never showed impatience. Never made us feel like the sick friend you keep out of obligation. Meanwhile, my career was having its main character moment. Morrison and Associates promoted me to senior architect 8 months into Owen's illness. 6 years I'd been grinding toward that position. The promotion meant better money, which we desperately needed, but also longer hours and way more responsibility. I was leading this massive historic hotel renovation downtown, managing 12 people, putting out fires daily. Some nights I wouldn't get home until 8 or 9, and I'd find Owen asleep on the couch, his dinner untouched, his meds sitting there screaming, "You forgot again." The guilt was crushing. "I'm destroying your life," Owen said one night after I'd snapped at him about the missed medications. "You should be celebrating this promotion, taking on bigger projects, living your life. Instead you're playing nurse to a useless husband who can't even remember to swallow pills. Stop. You're not useless. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. You're sick. Huge difference, I said, immediately regretting my tone. But privately? I was drowning. We both were. Sienna noticed before I'd admit it to myself. She started showing up Friday afternoons to give me a break, bringing lunch to my office, dragging me to yoga classes I was too tired for but too guilty to skip. You can't pour from an empty cup, she'd say over overpriced lattes. Owen needs you functional, which means you need to take care of yourself. She was always right about this stuff. Sienna would text me reminders to eat lunch during chaotic days, send me links to meditation apps, even paid for monthly massages because she insisted I needed them. Investment in my best friend, she said when I protested. You're carrying the world, Nora. Let me lighten it a little. Looking back now, I want to punch past me for being so trusting. The medical bills were relentless. Every week, new envelopes with impossible numbers. $4,000 for one ER visit when Owen's fever spiked dangerously. $1,200 monthly for antibiotics, insurance called not medically necessary, $800 for PSCC line supplies. Each bill felt like a small assault. Sienna kept saying she had it under control. Monthly spreadsheet presentations showing our medical debt climbing while our savings evaporated. I'm negotiating with providers, filing insurance appeals, finding every discount program that exists, she'd assure me. We're managing this strategically. Strategically meant I took freelance work on weekends. Meant we canceled our modest vacation plans. Meant house projects we'd loved sat half-finished because materials cost money we didn't have. Our emergency fund disappeared. Retirement contributions stopped. The small inheritance from my grandmother, the one we'd earmarked for starting a family, went straight into the medical debt black hole. Owen's parents offered help, but they were retired and barely scraping by themselves in some tiny eastern Oregon town. My parents died in a car crash when I was 25, leaving me with just my older brother Marcus in Boston, who had his own financial mess to deal with. So yeah. Sienna and Derek became everything. Our support system, our financial managers, our social life, our emergency contacts. They were family. And they were lying to my face the entire time. The diagnosis happened on a cold February morning, which feels too poetic for what was basically a medical gut punch. Owen had been insisting something was wrong for months. The exhaustion wasn't normal tired, it was, I can't lift my arms to shower, tired. The joint pain wasn't, I overdid it at the gym, it was, every movement feels like my bones are grinding glass. His primary care doctor kept pushing antidepressants. You're stressed. You run a business, you're in your 30s, this is just life. Classic gaslighting, medical edition. But Owen refused to accept that answer. He knew his body. He'd spent his entire career understanding bodies, helping people rebuild strength and mobility. He knew this wasn't stress. Doctor number 4 finally listened. Dr. Patricia Chin, an infectious disease specialist who actually looked at Owen like he was a human instead of a checklist. She ordered the Western blot test for Lyme disease almost casually. Let's just rule this out, she said. Given your outdoor activities and the symptom pattern, it's worth checking. 2 weeks later, we sat in her office while she delivered news that somehow felt both validating and devastating. Your test is positive for Lyme disease. Based on your symptom duration and severity, I'd classify this as late stage, possibly chronic. The bacteria has likely spread to your joints and nervous system. Owen's hand found mine across the desk. I remember thinking his palm felt too hot, too dry. Treatment is aggressive, Dr. Chin continued, pulling up images on her computer that meant nothing to me. Long-term intravenous antibiotics, possibly for 6 months to 2 years. You'll need a PICC line placed. The medication is harsh, nausea, fatigue, potential liver stress. And I'll be honest, insurance companies hate covering extended antibiotic therapy for Lyme. They'll fight you on it. Cost? I asked, because someone had to. With insurance? Probably $2,000 to $4,000 monthly out of pocket for medications alone. Plus infusion center fees, labs, imaging, follow-ups. You're looking at $50,000 to $100,000 over the treatment course if insurance pushes back hard. The number sat in the room like a third person. Owen's physical therapy practice was successful but not absorbed 6 figures of medical debt, successful. We had decent savings, maybe $30,000 in emergency funds, but that wouldn't last long at this burn rate. However, Dr. Chen added, there are patient assistance programs, clinical trials, and ways to negotiate. I'll connect you with our financial counselor. Don't let the money stop you from treating this. Untreated late-stage Lyme can cause permanent neurological damage, chronic pain, disability. Owen's grip on my hand tightened. So I do this or I get worse. Essentially, yes. We scheduled the PICC line placement for the following week. Walking out of that office into the parking lot, Owen stopped halfway to our car and just stood there in the February drizzle. Portland rain has this way of making everything gray and heavy. I'm sorry, he said. For what? Getting sick? Owen, that's insane. For the money. For what this is going to cost us. For becoming this burden. I pulled him into a hug right there in the Medical Plaza parking lot, both of us getting soaked. We'll figure it out. We always do. But driving home, my mind was already calculating. Mortgage, car payments, utilities, groceries, Owen's practice expenses, now catastrophic medical bills. The math didn't work. Something would have to give. That night, I sat at our dining table with my laptop, researching Lyme disease treatment costs, insurance appeals processes, pharmaceutical assistance programs. The internet offered a terrifying combination of hope and horror stories, people who'd recovered fully, people who'd been sick for decades, people who'd gone bankrupt trying to get well. Owen's phone rang around 8. I heard his voice from the bedroom, animated in a way it hadn't been in weeks. He appeared in the doorway, phone still pressed to his ear. Yeah, man. Yeah, that would be incredible. Okay. See you tomorrow. He hung up, looking lighter somehow. That was Derek. He and Sienna want to come over tomorrow night. Sienna said she might be able to help with the medical costs, like actually help. Something about financial planning and insurance optimization. Relief flooded through me so fast I felt dizzy. Really? She told Derek she's worked with other clients navigating major medical situations. She knows ways to structure things so we don't drown. I wanted to cry from sheer gratitude. This was Sienna, always showing up exactly when you needed her, always having solutions, always being the friend who didn't just offer thoughts and prayers but actual tangible help. The next evening, Friday, Sienna and Derek arrived with Thai takeout and Sienna's work laptop. We ate first, pad Thai and spring rolls that I barely tasted, while they asked questions about Owen's diagnosis, treatment plan, prognosis. Sienna took notes on her phone like she was preparing for a business presentation. After dinner, she spread out on our dining table, pulling up documents and spreadsheets. Okay, here's what I'm thinking, she began, her voice taking on that professional tone she used at work. Medical debt is vicious if you don't manage it strategically. Insurance companies will jerk you around, providers will overcharge, and you'll spend all your energy fighting instead of healing. She pulled up a document template. What I want to do is set up a dedicated medical expense account. All your insurance reimbursements go there, all medical bills get paid from there. I'll manage it, tracking claims, filing appeals, negotiating with providers. You too won't have to touch it. You'll just get monthly reports showing where everything stands. Sienna, that's too much work for you, I protested weakly. It's literally what I do professionally. I manage complex financial situations for clients with way messier problems than this. Plus, you're not clients. You're family. She looked at Owen, then at me, her expression genuine. I'm not letting you go through this alone. I can help, so I'm helping. End of discussion. Derek nodded. We talked about this. We want to do this. There are also pharmaceutical assistance programs I can apply for on your behalf, Sienna continued, typing rapidly. Clinical trials that might cover treatment costs in exchange for participation. Medical tourism options if insurance refuses coverage. Some Canadian pharmacies sell the same antibiotics for a fraction of US prices. I'll explore everything. Owen's eyes were wet. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me help. Say you'll give me power of attorney for medical financial decisions so I can act quickly when insurance companies inevitably try to screw you. Say you trust me. The phrase, power of attorney, should have given me pause. It didn't. I was too relieved, too grateful, too overwhelmed to question anything. This was Sienna. My best friend of 15 years. The woman who'd held my hand through my parents' funeral, who'd celebrated every career milestone, who'd never once let me down. Of course we trust you, I said. Owen pulled documents from Sienna's portfolio. Standard power of attorney forms, medical proxy authorization, account access agreements. We signed everything that night at our dining table, Sienna witnessing, Derek notarizing with the portable stamp he kept in his car for work. You're not alone in this, Sienna said, squeezing my hand across the table. We've got you. Both of you. I believed her completely. That was my first mistake. The PICC line went into Owen's arm on a Monday morning in March. I took the day off work to be there, watching as the interventional radiologist threaded a thin catheter through a vein in his bicep, snaking it up toward his heart. Owen tried to joke about becoming a cyborg, but his voice shook. Infusion treatment started that Wednesday. 4-hour sessions while antibiotics dripped into his bloodstream. The side effects hit within a week, nausea so severe he couldn't keep water down, fatigue that made his previous exhaustion look like mild tiredness. He lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks. That's when Sienna really stepped in. She showed up at the infusion center during our second week, breezing in with her portfolio. Just need a few signatures, she said, spreading papers across Owen's tray table while he dozed between medication doses. Insurance pre-authorization for next month's treatments. I started reading through the forms, but the medical terminology was dense and my brain was fried. Sienna pointed to the signature lines. It's just standard stuff. Authorization for me to communicate with providers on your behalf, expedite claims processing. Owen stirred, groggy from the pre-meds. Where do I sign? We signed. We always signed. By month 2, Owen's practice was officially closed. His colleague made an offer $40,000 below market value, but Owen was desperate. At least someone who cares about the patients is taking over, he said the night we signed the sale papers. Sienna helped negotiate the terms. You need liquidity now, not a better price in 6 months, she'd argued. Medical debt is piling up faster than you realize. The $85,000 from the sale went directly into the medical account Sienna had set up. I'll put this in a high-yield situation, she promised. Make your money work for you. I never saw the actual account statements. Just monthly summaries on her company letterhead, neat spreadsheets showing we were burning through money at an alarming rate. Month 3 brought an emergency room visit that became a 3-day hospital stay. Owen's fever spiked to 104. The bill 6 weeks later, $37,000. Insurance denied most of it, Sienna explained over coffee. They're claiming the admission wasn't medically necessary. You might need to consider taking out a medical loan. A medical loan. The phrase felt like surrender. Owen's transformation was brutal. His wedding ring fell off during a shower. His beloved tools migrated from truck to closet, one by one. His identity was eroding, the physical therapist who couldn't stand for 20 minutes, the handyman who couldn't grip tools, the provider who was becoming the provided for. I'm useless, he said one night. Can't work, can't provide, can't even open a jar. Month 4, Sienna suggested we refinance the house. You're sitting on equity you could be using. Current rates are decent. You could pull out $50,000, use it to pay down the high-interest medical debt. We just refinanced 3 years ago. And your home value has increased significantly. Laurelhurst is hot right now. You'd be stupid not to leverage that equity strategically. The word stupid stung. Was I being stupid? Was pride getting in the way of practical decisions? Sienna arranged everything: appraisal, application, processing. The loan amount ended up at $75,000 instead of $50,000. The extra will go toward upcoming treatment costs, she explained. I signed at midnight, too exhausted to fully process the terms. Owen signed the next morning. The money hit the medical account 3 weeks later. This buys you time, Sienna assured me. Stop panicking about every bill. But the bills kept coming. $3,200 for lab work that was out of network, $1,800 for imaging that fell under experimental diagnostics. Each one explained away by Sienna as insurance company runaround, each one another weight on Owen's conscience. By month 5, I'd cashed out my retirement account. 7 years of contributions, $31,000 after penalties. Gone into the medical account that Sienna managed. You did the right thing, Owen said, but his eyes were hollow. The papers never stopped. Sienna always had more documents, always had logical reasons why we needed to sign immediately. Insurance deadlines. Provider requirements. Program application windows closing. I signed everything. Owen signed everything. What choice did we have? Month 7 arrived with the kind of exhaustion that becomes your baseline. Owen had good days maybe twice a week now. The rest were varying degrees of survival mode. Our financial situation had gone from dire to catastrophic. Sienna's monthly reports showed the medical account bleeding out faster than we could refill it. The house refinance money, gone. My retirement account, gone. Owen's practice sale proceeds, gone. You need to consider selling the house, Sienna said during one of her increasingly frequent visits. Your equity is the only significant asset left. You could clear maybe $280,000 after the mortgage payoff. And live where? Owen can barely handle stairs. You could rent temporarily. Just for a year or two until treatment is finished. You've got another $60,000 in projected medical expenses over the next 6 months. $60,000 I didn't have. The house sells now, you have options, Sienna continued. The house goes into foreclosure because you can't keep up payments. You have nothing. Derek had stopped coming around. When I mentioned it, Sienna got defensive. He's swamped at work. You know he cares about you guys. But it felt like abandonment. Owen's parents called every Sunday, and every Sunday Owen lied. We're managing fine, Mom. Insurance is covering most of it. Don't worry about us. Then he'd hang up and fall apart. Work became my only escape, which created its own guilt. At the office, I could pretend to be functional. But it meant longer hours away from Owen, coming home to find him exactly where I'd left him. I'm thinking about quitting the trial, Owen said one Wednesday night. It's not helping. We're hemorrhaging money for treatments that aren't working. Dr. Chen says some patients don't show improvement until month 9 or 10. And what if I'm not one of those patients? What if this is just it? What if I should stop treatment, let whatever happens happen, and at least you'd have something left when I'm gone? When you're gone? Owen, you're not dying. No, I'm just slowly destroying both of us. Which might actually be worse. I couldn't argue because part of me wondered if he was right. Sienna texted that night, need to talk tomorrow. Found a buyer interested in your house. Cash offer, quick close. The next day at lunch, she laid it out. The buyer is offering $740,000. Cash, no contingencies, 30-day close. After paying off your mortgage and equity loan, you'd clear about $290,000. That covers all outstanding medical debt, gives you breathing room. $740,000 for our home. The number should have felt like salvation. It felt like surrender. The buyer wants an answer by Monday. This is time sensitive. Everything was always time sensitive with Sienna. Always urgent. Always a deadline that forced decisions before we could think them through. I drove home in a daze and found Owen asleep on the couch. I sat in my car in our driveway, looking at our house with its restored brick and renovated bathroom and kitchen where we'd laughed and argued about tiles. Selling it felt like giving up on everything we'd been. I went inside and woke Owen. We need to talk. He looked at me with exhausted eyes. We're selling the house, aren't we? Sienna found a buyer. She says it's the only way forward. Owen nodded slowly. No surprise. Just resignation. Okay. If that's what we have to do. You don't want to fight this? What's left to fight for, Nora? My business is gone. My health is gone. Our savings are gone. At least if we sell, maybe you'll have something when this is over. That night I texted Sienna, we'll do it. Her response came immediately, you're making the right choice. I'll handle everything. But sitting in our home that we were about to lose, listening to Owen's labored breathing, I already regretted everything. The house sale moved impossibly fast. Inspections waived, appraisal rushed, closing scheduled for 3 weeks out. Sienna handled everything with her usual efficiency. We signed the preliminary paperwork on a Saturday. More documents, more yellow tabs, more explanations about earnest money and escrow. Owen signed with shaking hands. I signed feeling like I was autographing our surrender. The closing is set for the 18th, Sienna said. 2.5 weeks. I've already been looking at ground-level apartments near Owen's doctor's. The days blurred into packing and pretending everything was fine. I worked, came home to box up our life, worked freelance projects until midnight. Owen tried to help but couldn't stand long enough to be useful. By the second week, I was operating on 4 hours of sleep. My boss made comments about my performance. I apologized, fixed mistakes, went home and cried. Sienna kept showing up with more papers. Always more papers. Owen signed without reading. I barely read anything myself. We'd entered this fog of compliance, too exhausted to question. Thursday morning, 2 days before closing, Owen texted, really struggling today. Can barely move. Don't worry about me, I know you're busy. I made it through a presentation on autopilot, then told my boss I needed an early lunch. I stopped at the deli and grabbed chicken soup, Owen's favorite. Pulling into our driveway at 12:47 p.m., I noticed Sienna's Tesla on the street. Weird, she hadn't mentioned stopping by. I grabbed the soup and pushed open our unlocked front door quietly. That's when I heard the voices from our bedroom. We can't keep doing this, Owen. Sienna's voice was low and urgent. She's going to find out eventually. The money, the tests you're faking, all of it. When she realizes you're not actually sick anymore. The soup container hit the floor. And everything I'd believed for the past 7 months shattered with it. Sienna's carefully neutral expression finally cracked. Not into guilt or remorse, into something colder. Calculating. Like she was running numbers in her head, assessing damage, deciding on a strategy. Nora, you need to calm down and let us explain this rationally. Rationally? I laughed, and it came out manic. You want me to be rational right now? Yes, actually. Because you're acting like we committed some kind of crime, when really we were trying to help you. She moved toward the living room, gesturing for me to follow like we were about to have a reasonable business discussion. Come sit down. Let's talk through this like adults. I don't want to sit down. I want you to tell me what the fuck is going on. Owen slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, his head in his hands. It started small, he said, his voice muffled. I started feeling better around month 3, like I said. The fatigue lifted, the pain decreased. I mentioned it to Sienna during one of her visits, and she pointed out that if I recovered too quickly, insurance might deny all the future claims. They'd say the treatment wasn't necessary, try to claw back money they'd already paid. So she told you to keep pretending to be sick. She told me to be strategic, Owen corrected, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. To make sure we got what we were owed from insurance. They'd already denied so many claims, fought us on everything. This was about getting back what we deserved. Sienna nodded, taking over. Insurance companies screw people over every single day, Nora. They take premiums for years, then fight tooth and nail to avoid paying out when people actually need help. All I suggested was that Owen continue treatment long enough to ensure all the legitimate expenses were covered. That's it. That's it? My voice was climbing again. You convinced my husband to fake a debilitating illness for 4 months, and that's it? He wasn't faking the illness, he had it. We were just being cautious about the recovery timeline. Sienna's tone was patronizing now, like she was explaining basic math to a child. And it worked. Insurance covered way more than they would have if Owen had suddenly announced he was cured. We protected you from debt. By lying to me. By making me watch him suffer, or pretend to suffer, every single day. By letting me destroy my career and cash out my retirement and sell our fucking house. The house sale was necessary regardless, Sienna shot back. You were drowning in medical debt. Real debt, Nora. Bills that existed whether Owen was sick or not. Something about her tone, about the way she said real debt, made my stomach drop. Show me the medical account. What? The account you've been managing. The one where all our money went. Show it to me right now. Sienna's expression flickered. I don't have the login credentials with me. I can send you a report when I get back to the office. You've been managing our finances from your phone for 7 months. You're telling me you don't have access right now? I pulled out my own phone. Give me the account number. I'll log in myself. Nora, this isn't necessary. You're upset, you're not thinking clearly. Give me the fucking account number. The shout echoed through our half-empty house. Owen flinched. Sienna's jaw tightened, and for the first time, I saw something like genuine emotion cross her face. Anger. You want to see the account, she said, her voice sharp. Fine. But don't blame me when you don't like what you find. She pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, then turned it toward me. There. The medical expense account I set up. I grabbed her phone and stared at the screen. The account balance showed $127,000. $127,000. My brain stuttered. This doesn't make sense. You said we were almost out of money. You said we needed to sell the house because the medical account was nearly empty. That's the balance after I restructured everything last week, Sienna said, snatching her phone back. I moved funds around, consolidated accounts, paid off the high-interest debts. This is what's left. After you restructured? Sienna, 2 weeks ago you told me we had $18,000 left. Where did an extra $109,000 come from? She didn't answer immediately, and in that silence, Owen made a sound, half sob, half laugh. Tell her, he said from his spot on the floor. Just tell her everything. We're already fucked. Sienna shot him a look that could have cut glass. Owen, shut up. No. He pushed himself up, using the wall for support, and for the first time in months, he moved without the careful fragility of someone in pain. He moved like a healthy person. No more lying. Nora deserves the truth. The truth? Sienna's voice was venomous now. The truth is your wife is having a breakdown over decisions we made to protect her financial future. The truth is you've been stealing from us, I said, and the words came out calm. Eerily calm. Haven't you? Owen's face answered before his mouth could. Absolute devastation. It's not stealing, Sienna said quickly. I've been managing your money. Yes, I've taken management fees, that's standard practice. I've spent hundreds of hours on your finances, dealing with insurance companies, negotiating with providers. I'm entitled to compensation for that work. How much? My voice stayed level. How much in the management fees? That's between me and my clients. We're not your clients, Sienna. We're your friends. We're your friends. How much did you take? She lifted her chin, defiant. About 30% of the accounts I managed. Which is actually below industry standard for comprehensive financial management. 30%. Of the practice sale. Of the refinance. Of my retirement account. 30%. You took almost $200,000 from us, I said, the math calculating automatically in my shocked brain. While telling me we were broke. While making me think we had no choice but to sell our home. I provided a service. I deserve compensation. And frankly, without my management, you'd have been bankrupted by medical bills months ago. I negotiated rates, filed appeals. You created fake medical bills. The words exploded out of me as another piece clicked into place. That's why they were always out of network or not covered. They weren't real. The trial wasn't real. How much of any of it was real? Owen was crying openly now. Some of it was real. The first few months, all of it was real. But then Sienna said we could maximize the insurance payout if we extended treatment. Filed for things I didn't actually need. The clinical trial was fake, just a way to justify ongoing costs. And you went along with it. I was looking at my husband, this man I'd loved for 12 years, and he was a stranger. You let me suffer, let me think I was losing you, let me destroy my career and my savings, while you were what? Getting kickbacks? No. Owen's voice cracked. I didn't get anything. It was all Sienna. She said we needed to do this to protect you from the debt, to make sure insurance paid what they owed. She made it sound like we were just being smart, gaming a system that games everyone else. And when did you realize it wasn't about gaming the system? I asked. When did you figure out she was stealing from us? His silence was the answer. You knew, I whispered. You knew and you said nothing. You let it continue. Even watched me sell our house. I thought we were splitting the money. Owen shouted. I thought after the house sold, after Sienna took her cut, we'd still have enough to start over. She promised me you'd never have to know, that we'd come out ahead, that I'd never find out you were a lying, complicit piece of shit. He flinched like I'd hit him. Sienna was backing toward the door now, her expression hardening into something ugly. This is pointless. You're emotional, you're not thinking straight. When you calm down and actually look at the numbers, you'll realize I saved you. Insurance companies are predators, and I beat them at their own game for you. You should be thanking me. Thanking you? I started laughing again, that same manic sound. You want me to thank you for stealing $200,000, for making my husband fake a terminal illness, for destroying my life? I didn't destroy your life. The American healthcare system did that. I just helped you survive it. She grabbed her purse, her car keys. When you're ready to discuss this rationally, call me. Until then, I'm done being attacked for helping. She headed for the door, but I moved faster, blocking her path. You're not leaving. Not until you tell me everything. The house sale, the buyers aren't real, are they? It's you. You're buying our house. Her expression confirmed it before she could formulate a lie. The cash offer. The rush to close. You're buying our house with the money you stole from us, aren't you? How much are you really paying? What's the actual number, Sienna? The offer is legitimate. What's the real number? $480,000, she screamed back. I'm paying $480,000, which is still a fair price, and I'm flipping it to an actual buyer for $740,000 next month. That's business, Nora. That's how the world works. She was buying our house for $480,000 with our own stolen money, then immediately reselling it for $740,000. Another $260,000 profit on top of everything else she'd taken. Get out, I said, my voice ice. Get the fuck out of my house. Gladly. Sienna pushed past me, then turned back from the doorway. You're going to regret this. When you realize how much I actually did for you, how much I protected you, you're going to feel like an idiot. And I won't be there to fix it. She left. The door slammed. Her Tesla pulled away with an expensive purr. And I stood in my half-empty house with my lying husband crumpled on the floor, trying to comprehend the totality of what had just been revealed. Everything was a lie. Everything. I stood frozen in the hallway for what felt like hours but was probably 30 seconds. Owen was still on the floor, crying, saying my name over and over like a prayer that wasn't working. The soup I'd brought him was splattered across our hardwood, creating this absurd crime scene tableau. Don't, I said when he tried to stand. Don't move. Don't talk. Don't fucking breathe in my direction. I walked past him into our bedroom, the room where apparently he and Sienna had been planning my financial destruction, and grabbed my laptop. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it twice. Back in the living room, I sat on the couch and opened my banking app. The joint checking account showed $3,247. Our mortgage payment was due in 6 days. I navigated to the medical expense account that Sienna had set up. The login she'd given me months ago still worked, which was either arrogant or stupid of her. The balance showed $127,000, just like on her phone. But when I clicked through to the transaction history, my stomach dropped further. Deposits, practice sale $85,000. House refinance $75,000. My retirement account $31,000. Plus dozens of smaller insurance reimbursements. Total deposits, $247,000. Withdrawals, medical management fees, appeared every single week. $3,000 here. $5,000 there. $8,000. $12,000. 57 separate withdrawals over 7 months, all labeled some variation of administrative fees, or case management, or financial services. Total withdrawn by Sienna, $183,000. And then there were the actual medical expenses. I clicked through them, comparing them to the bills I'd seen. Every legitimate bill was there, the hospital stays, the medications, the lab work. Those totaled about $89,000. But there were other charges. Clinical trial enrollment fee, $15,000. Experimental medication surcharge, $8,000. Research protocol compliance, $12,000. Things that sounded medical but that I'd never seen itemized on any actual bill. Fake charges. Sienna had created fake medical expenses to justify bleeding the account dry. Nora, please, Owen's voice came from somewhere behind me. When did you know? I asked without turning around. When did you know she was stealing? Silence. Then, month 5. I saw one of her fee withdrawals when she logged in at the house. I asked her about it, and she said it was standard practice, that she'd explained it to you. She showed me paperwork that looked like you'd signed off on her compensation structure. I never signed anything authorizing her to take $183,000. I know that now. But she showed me documents, Nora. They looked real. They had your signature. Forged signatures. She'd been forging my signature on management agreements, probably for months. I pulled up my email and searched for anything from Sienna. Hundreds of messages. Most were just casual friendship stuff, lunch plans, funny memes, supportive messages during Owen's illness. But scattered throughout were emails with attachments. I opened one from 4 months ago. Updated financial management agreement, please review and return signed copy. The attachment was a PDF that looked professional, official. Cascadia Financial Group letterhead. Legal language about comprehensive wealth management services and standard industry fee structures of 25 to 35% of managed assets. I'd never opened this email. Never seen this document. But at the bottom was a signature that looked exactly like mine. She'd scanned one of my real signatures and pasted it onto fake documents. Probably dozens of them. I need you to leave, I said to Owen. What? Nora, this is our house. Where am I supposed to? I don't give a shit where you go. Go to a hotel. Go to your parents. Go to hell. But you need to be gone when I turn around, or I swear to God I will do something we'll both regret. Nora, please, I know I fucked up, but we can. You watched me cry myself to sleep worried about you. You let me destroy my career. You sat there while I signed away our house, knowing it was all a scam. There's no we anymore, Owen. There's just you and your choices. I heard him moving, gathering things. The front door opened and closed. His car started in the driveway, then faded down the street. Only then did I let myself break down. But I gave myself exactly 3 minutes of crying. 3 minutes to feel the betrayal, the rage, the absolute devastation of losing everything to the two people I'd trusted most in the world. Then I wiped my face, made coffee, and started documenting everything. I took screenshots of every transaction and the medical account. I downloaded all of Sienna's emails and the forged documents. I pulled out the binders of paperwork I'd been signing for months and photographed every page. I created a timeline: when Owen's symptoms improved, when Sienna's fees started increasing, when the fake clinical trial began, when the house sale was initiated. By 3 p.m., I had a 47-page document outlining what I believed was systematic fraud and embezzlement. Then I called the one person who might actually be able to help. My brother Marcus answered on the second ring. Nora? Hey, is everything okay? You never call during work hours. Marcus, I need you to tell me the truth about something. You're a prosecutor. If someone steals money using power of attorney and forged documents, that's a crime, right? Like, federal crime? His tone shifted immediately. What happened? Are you okay? Is it Owen? Owen's fine. Better than fine, actually. Turns out he's been faking being sick for 4 months while his best friend embezzles our life savings. I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to me. So yeah. I need to know what my legal options are. Nora, slow down. Start from the beginning and tell me everything. So I did. I told him about Sienna's financial management, about the fake medical expenses, about Owen's recovered health that he'd hidden, about the house sale that was really Sienna buying our property with stolen money to flip for profit. I told him about the forged signatures and the fabricated clinical trial and the $183,000 in management fees. Marcus was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Then, Nora, this is wire fraud, embezzlement, possibly racketeering if she's done this to other clients. You need to call the FBI. Like, right now. The FBI? Marcus, it's a financial dispute between friends. It's federal wire fraud. She used electronic transfers to steal money across state lines if any of those accounts were out of state. She forged legal documents. She created fake businesses to launder money. This is absolutely FBI jurisdiction. I don't want to, I stopped. What didn't I want? To make this real? To destroy Sienna's life the way she destroyed mine? She was my best friend. She was a criminal who targeted you when you were vulnerable. Call the FBI, Nora. I'll give you the name of an agent in the Portland field office. She specializes in financial crimes. He texted me a contact within 2 minutes, Special Agent Rebecca Okoye, FBI Portland Financial Crimes Division. I stared at that contact for a full 5 minutes before I finally pressed call. Special Agent Rebecca Okoye arrived at my house 45 minutes after I called. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp eyes and an air of competence that made me feel like I could actually breathe for the first time in hours. She came with a partner, Agent David Chin, who set up recording equipment on my dining table while Okoye sat across from me. Marcus Chin speaks highly of you, she said, opening a leather portfolio. He said this involves financial fraud, power of attorney abuse, and possibly forged documents. And wire fraud, embezzlement, and a fake medical clinical trial, I added, sliding my 47-page documentation across to her. I've compiled everything I could find in the last few hours. Okoye's eyebrows went up as she started reading. Agent Shen looked over her shoulder, and I watched their expressions shift from professional interest to genuine shock. Mrs. Castellano, Okoye said after 20 minutes of reading, this is extremely thorough. These transaction records, the email chains with forged signatures, the timeline, this is better documentation than we see from most victims. How did you put this together so quickly? I'm an architect. Documentation is kind of my thing. I laughed humorlessly. Plus, rage is an excellent motivator. She smiled slightly, then got serious. Here's what I'm seeing: systematic embezzlement, wire fraud across multiple accounts, forgery, and what appears to be insurance fraud with the fake clinical trial. If your husband was complicit in the insurance fraud portion, he's also liable. I don't care about Owen right now. I care about Sienna. Sienna Whitmore, correct? Senior Investment Advisor at Cascadia Financial Group? Okoye was taking notes. Has she done this to other clients that you know of? I have no idea. But she's good at it. Like, really good. Everything looked legitimate until it wasn't. Agent Shen spoke up. The house sale, you said it's closing in 2 days? Saturday the 18th? Yes. She's buying it for $480,000 under some LLC, then flipping it immediately for $740,000. Using money she stole from us to buy our own house. Okoye and Shen exchanged looks. That's our window, Okoye said. If we move before closing, we can freeze the transaction, seize the fraudulent funds, and catch her in the act of completing the scheme. What do you need from me? First, we need you to act completely normal. Can you do that? Can you continue communicating with Sienna as if you don't know we're involved? My stomach turned. You want me to pretend everything's fine? After what she did? I want you to help us build an airtight case. Right now, we have evidence of financial misconduct. But if she thinks you're onto her, she'll disappear. Offshore accounts, different identity, we'll never find her or the money. Okoye leaned forward. But if you play along until closing, we can catch her with the money actively moving, freeze everything, and ensure you actually recover your assets. Plus, we can investigate whether she's done this to others. What about Owen? Your husband's cooperation would be valuable. Is he willing to testify against Sienna? I thought about Owen, crumpled on the floor, crying. Yeah. I think he'd do anything to make this right at this point. Good. We'll need his statement about the fake illness, the clinical trial, his knowledge of Sienna's fraud. He'll likely face charges for insurance fraud, but cooperation could mean reduced sentencing or immunity depending on what the prosecutor decides. Agent Shen pulled out paperwork. We need to move fast. Today's Thursday. Closing is Saturday at 2 p.m., you said? That's what Sienna told me. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. Okoye pulled out a legal pad and started sketching a timeline. Today, we get your formal statement and Owen's. Tomorrow, we coordinate with the title company and get a warrant to freeze the transaction. Saturday at closing, when Sienna attempts to complete the fraudulent purchase, we arrest her. We'll have agents at the title company, at her home, and at her office simultaneously. What do I do until then? Absolutely nothing unusual. If she contacts you, respond normally. If she wants to meet, you meet. We can wire you if needed. The key is she can't suspect anything. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Sienna. Hey, I know today was intense. Can we talk tomorrow? I want to make sure you understand everything before you make any rash decisions. Coffee at 10? I showed the text to Okoye. She nodded. Perfect. Accept the meeting. We'll wire you up, have agents nearby. Let her talk, see if she incriminates herself further. My hands shook as I typed back, okay. Same place as usual? Sienna's response came immediately, yes. The cafe on Hawthorne. And Nora? I really am trying to help you. You'll see that once you calm down. The audacity of it made me want to scream. Instead, I texted back, see you tomorrow. Okoye smiled grimly. Excellent. Now let's get your full statement on record, then bring in your husband. We have less than 48 hours to build a case that will put her away for a very long time. Owen came back to the house at 6 p.m. looking like he'd aged a decade. I met him at the door with Agent Shin, who explained what was happening. Owen's relief at the FBI's involvement was almost pathetic. I'll tell you everything, he said immediately. Every conversation, every fake symptom, every lie. I'll testify, I'll cooperate, whatever you need. Just, please believe I never wanted it to go this far. Save it for your statement, I said coldly. We spent 3 hours going through everything. Owen detailed how Sienna had convinced him to exaggerate symptoms after month 3, how she'd created the fake clinical trial, how she'd promised him the insurance money would set us up for life. He described meetings I'd never known about, lunches where they'd coordinate stories, evenings when Sienna would coach him on symptoms to report, moments when he'd wanted to confess but she'd talked him out of it. She said you'd never forgive me if you knew, Owen said, his voice hollow. She said the only way forward was to see it through, make sure we came out ahead financially, then you'd never have to know. She made it sound like I was protecting you. You weren't protecting me, I said. You were protecting yourself. He didn't argue. By 9 p.m., the agents had everything they needed. The wire fitting is at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Okoye said as they packed up their equipment. We'll prep you on what to listen for, what questions to ask. The goal is to get her to admit to the fraud on tape. Can you do that? Yes, I said without hesitation. After they left, Owen hovered in the living room. Do you want me to leave again? I want you to sleep in the guest room and stay out of my sight until this is over. Nora, I know I destroyed everything, but I do love you. I need you to know that. I looked at this man I'd married, this stranger wearing my husband's face. You know what the worst part is? If you'd just told me the truth when you started feeling better, I would have been happy. We could have celebrated. We could have figured out the money stuff together. But you chose this. You chose her manipulation over trusting me. I know. I'm so sorry. Your apology means nothing. Just, go to bed. Tomorrow I have to convince your partner in crime that I'm stupid enough to forgive her. He left. I sat alone in our half-packed living room, surrounded by boxes of a life that no longer existed, and planned exactly how I was going to help destroy Sienna Whitmore. The FBI fitted me with a wire at 9 a.m. sharp in an unmarked van 2 blocks from the cafe. It was smaller than I expected, just a thin piece of tech taped between my shoulder blades, the microphone no bigger than a shirt button positioned near my collar. Don't touch it, don't adjust your shirt weird, just act natural, Agent Shin instructed while Agent Okoye tested the audio levels. We'll be inside the cafe at separate tables. You won't see us, but we're there. Let her talk. The more she explains, the more she incriminates herself. What if she doesn't say anything useful? She will, Okoye said confidently. Narcissists like this can't help themselves. She thinks she's smarter than you, smarter than everyone. She'll want to explain exactly how clever she's been. Let her. My phone buzzed. Sienna, running 5 minutes late. Order me a latte? I texted back, sure. At 10:07, Sienna walked into the cafe looking flawless as always. Designer sunglasses, perfect hair, that confidence that came from never actually facing consequences. She slid into the chair across from me, pulling off her sunglasses with a practiced motion. You look awful, she said, her tone somewhere between concerned and critical. Did you sleep at all? Not really. Hard to sleep when your entire life implodes. She sighed, adding sweetener to the latte I'd ordered. Nora, I understand you're upset. Yesterday was a lot to process. But you're catastrophizing. Once you actually look at the numbers rationally. I looked at the numbers, Sienna. All night. You took $183,000 in management fees from accounts that totaled $247,000. That's not, she stopped, recalculating. That percentage is high, I'll admit. But you have to understand the amount of work I put in. The hours of negotiations with insurance companies, the appeals I filed, the fake clinical trial you invented? The fraudulent medical charges? Her expression hardened slightly. Those charges weren't fraudulent. They were strategic billing to maximize insurance reimbursement. It's done all the time. By criminals. By people who understand how the system works. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Nora, insurance companies screw people every single day. They take premiums for years, then deny claims on technicalities. What I did was level the playing field. I made sure you got what you deserved. What I deserved? You stole almost $200,000 from me while telling me I was broke. I earned that money managing your finances. Do you have any idea what my time is worth? What my expertise is worth? Her voice was rising now, drawing glances from other customers. She forced it back down. You were falling apart, Nora. You couldn't handle the medical stuff, the bills, any of it. I stepped in and managed everything while you focused on work and playing nurse. That deserves compensation. And the house? How does buying my house with my own stolen money deserve compensation? She sat back, something calculating crossing her face. The house sale is a legitimate business transaction. I'm paying fair market value. You're paying $480,000 when comparable homes in Laurelhurst are selling for over $700,000. You told me the buyers were offering $740,000. Market fluctuation. The appraisal came in lower than expected. Bullshit. You're buying it cheap with money you stole from me, then flipping it immediately for a $260,000 profit. That's not business, Sienna. That's just more theft. Her jaw tightened. You know what? Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I structured the house sale to benefit me. Because I earned it. I spent 7 months managing your financial disaster while you were too emotional and useless to handle it yourself. Owen was falling apart, you were falling apart, and I held everything together. So yes, I took compensation. Yes, I made sure I came out ahead. That's called being smart. It's called being a criminal. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Please. You think you're going to report me? With what evidence? Everything I did was authorized. You signed documents giving me full financial control. You gave me power of attorney. Every transaction was legal. I never signed documents authorizing you to take $183,000. Actually, you did. You just didn't read what you were signing, which is your own fault for being careless. She pulled out her phone, scrolling. I have copies of everything. Your signature on management agreements, fee authorizations, account access forms. All legal. Those signatures are forged. Her expression didn't even flicker. Prove it. Good luck finding a handwriting expert who can definitively say that, because I used your real signature. Just, repositioned digitally. Completely untraceable. There it was. The confession. I could practically feel Agent Okoye smiling from wherever she was sitting. And Owen? I asked, pushing further. His fake illness? The clinical trial that didn't exist? Sienna waved dismissively. Owen's recovery timeline was exaggerated for insurance purposes. The trial was a billing structure to maximize reimbursements. All of it was designed to protect you from predatory medical debt. By creating fraudulent medical debt instead? By gaming a broken system. Nora, you're so naive about how the world actually works. Everyone's running some kind of scam. I just did it better than most, and I made sure you benefited too. You should be thanking me, not attacking me. Thanking you for destroying my marriage? My career? My life? I didn't destroy anything. Your husband's illness did that. I just helped you survive it financially. The fact that I also ensured my own compensation is just good business. She stood, grabbing her purse. I came here to make peace, to help you understand. But clearly you're too emotional and irrational to see reason. When you finally calm down and realize I saved you, you know where to find me. Actually, Sienna, you're not going anywhere. She turned back, irritated. Excuse me? Agent Okoye appeared from a corner table, badge out. Agent Shin materialized from the opposite direction, blocking the exit. Two more agents I hadn't even noticed stood up near the counter. Sienna Whitmore, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Okoye's voice carried through the now silent cafe. You have the right to remain silent. Sienna's face went through a rapid evolution, confusion, realization, then pure rage. Her eyes locked on me. You wore a wire? You fucking wore a wire? You said I was too emotional and irrational to see reason, I said, standing up. Turns out I'm rational enough to record a confession. You bitch. You ungrateful bitch. I helped you. You stole from me. There's a difference. I watched as Agent Shin pulled out handcuffs. Oh, and Sienna? That closing tomorrow? The FBI's freezing the house sale. You won't be flipping anything except your prison mattress. Her face contorted with fury as the handcuffs clicked into place. I'll fight this. I have lawyers. I have resources. You have nothing. I have something you don't, I said calmly. The truth. And apparently, it was all recorded in high definition. As they led her out of the cafe, past stunned customers with their phones out recording everything, Sienna tried one last time. Owen will back me up. He'll testify that you knew everything, that you approved. Owen's already given his full statement to the FBI, I called after her. He's cooperating in exchange for immunity. You're doing this alone. The look on her face as that information landed was almost worth everything she'd put me through. Almost. The FBI agents took me back to the field office after Sienna's arrest. I sat in a conference room with terrible coffee while Okoye and Shin coordinated with what seemed like a dozen other agents. Through the glass walls, I could see activity everywhere. People on phones, typing frantically, moving with urgent purpose. Okoye came back an hour later with a thick folder. We executed search warrants on her home, office, and digital accounts simultaneously with the arrest. Nora, this is bigger than we thought. Much bigger. She spread documents across the table. Bank statements, client files, email chains. Sienna's been running this scheme for at least 4 years. We've identified 11 other victims so far, possibly more. Same pattern every time: target someone with a medical crisis, offer financial management, systematically embezzle funds while creating fake expenses. My stomach dropped. 11 other people? 11 other families? A teacher with MS. A veteran with cancer. A young mother with lupus. A retired firefighter with Parkinson's. Agent Shen was reading from a list. Total estimated theft across all victims, $2.3 million. $2.3 million. Stolen from people at their most vulnerable, their most desperate. People like me who'd trusted someone offering help. Her partner Derek, did he know? I asked. We're bringing him in for questioning now. His phone records show minimal communication with Sienna about finances, but we're digging deeper. He might be complicit or he might be another victim of her deception. Okoye pulled out another document. But here's something interesting. Cascadia Financial Group fired Sienna 3 months ago for ethics violations. She's been operating independently since then, using their old letterhead and credentials. Wait, what? She's been coming to our house in her work clothes, talking about client meetings. All fabricated. She's been running the scam full-time since her termination, using the appearance of legitimacy to maintain victim confidence. Chen showed me an internal memo from Cascadia. They suspected her of embezzling from clients but couldn't prove it. She resigned before their investigation concluded, probably sensing she was about to be exposed. So even the company she worked for, the credentials that made her seem trustworthy, had been a lie for months. Her office apartment we raided? Okoye continued. Luxury Pearl District condo that costs $8,000 a month. Paid for with money stolen from clients. The Tesla? Leased using fraudulent wire transfers. The Colorado vacation home she bought? That was down payment funded by your husband's practice sale proceeds. Every luxury in Sienna's life had been built on other people's suffering. On my suffering. My phone buzzed. A call from a number I didn't recognize. Should I answer? Okoye nodded. Put it on speaker. Hello? Mrs. Castellano? This is Jordan Reeves. I'm a client of Sienna Whitmore's, or I was. The FBI just contacted me about her arrest. I think she might have been stealing from me too. My heart sank. What happened? My wife died of breast cancer 2 years ago. Sienna helped me manage the medical debt and life insurance payout. She said she was investing it, building a trust fund for my kids' college. I just logged into the account for the first time in months. There's $34,000 left. There should be $180,000. Mr. Reeves, I'm Special Agent Rebecca Okoye with the FBI. We're documenting all of Ms. Whitmore's victims. Can you come to our field office today to give a statement? Yes. God, yes. She stole my daughter's college fund? Over the next 4 hours, 7 more calls came in. News of Sienna's arrest had spread through her former client network, people who'd trusted her with their most vulnerable moments, their biggest fears, their financial futures. Each one told variations of the same story. Medical crisis. Sienna's helpful offer. Systematic theft disguised as management fees. By 6 p.m., the victim count was at 19. Total estimated theft, $3.1 million. Her laptop is revealing the full scope, Agent Chen said, showing me a spreadsheet that made me nauseous. She kept detailed records of every victim. Names, medical conditions, estimated liquid assets, planned extraction timelines. This wasn't opportunistic fraud, it was calculated, systematic predation. I saw my name on that spreadsheet. Castellano, Nora/Owen. Lyme disease. EST liquid assets $400,000. Timeline, 12 months. Status, advanced stage, ready for final extraction, house sale. Final extraction. Like I was a resource to be mined, not a friend. Not a person. What about Derek? I asked again. There's no way he didn't know something. Okoye's phone rang. She answered, listened, then hung up looking grim. Derek just lawyered up. Preliminary investigation suggests he was minimally aware. Sienna kept most of the details from him, probably to maintain deniability. But he benefited financially from the fraud. The Colorado property is jointly owned. He's been living in a condo paid for by stolen money. So he might face charges? Probably. Depends on what the prosecutor decides and whether he cooperates. But right now, Sienna's the primary target. Another agent knocked on the conference room door. Agent Okoye? Cascadia Financial just called. They want to cooperate fully with the investigation. They've identified 3 more potential victims from before Sienna's termination and are offering to testify about the ethics violations they found. The case was building into something massive. What started as my personal nightmare was revealing a years-long pattern of calculated destruction targeting the most vulnerable people imaginable. What happens now? I asked. Sienna's arraignment is Monday. Based on the evidence we've gathered in just 6 hours, the prosecutor is pursuing multiple federal charges: wire fraud, mail fraud, aggravated identity theft, money laundering, and conspiracy. We're looking at 20 to 30 years in prison if convicted on all counts. 20 to 30 years. The number should have felt satisfying. Instead, it just felt hollow. Prison time wouldn't restore what she'd taken from 19 families. Wouldn't give back the teacher's retirement savings or the veteran's disability benefits or my own demolished life. What about the money? I asked. Can you recover it? Some of it. We've frozen her accounts, which contain about $890,000. The Colorado property will be seized and sold. The condo, the car, everything purchased with fraudulent funds, it's all assets we can liquidate. But she's already spent or hidden probably $1.50 to $2 million. Offshore accounts, cash withdrawals, purchases we can't trace. Recovery will be partial at best. Partial recovery. Meaning most of us would never be fully made whole. Okoye seemed to read my thoughts. I know it's not justice in the way you want. Financial crime victims rarely get full restitution. But we will get her off the streets, prevent her from doing this to anyone else, and recover as much as possible. I thought about the teacher with MS. The young mother with lupus. The veteran, the firefighter, all the others whose names I didn't yet know. People who'd been targeted in their darkest moments by someone they trusted. I want to meet them, I said suddenly. The other victims. Can you arrange that? Okoye hesitated. That's unusual. Victims don't typically. We're not typical victims. We were targeted because we were isolated, overwhelmed, desperate. Maybe if we're not isolated anymore, that changes something. Agent Chen smiled slightly. I'll see what we can do. My phone buzzed again. Owen, where are you? Are you okay? FBI took Sienna. It's all over the news. I'm at the house. Please come home so we can talk. I stared at that message for a long moment, then turned off my phone. I wasn't ready to go home yet. Maybe I never would be. Sienna's arraignment happened on Monday morning in federal court. I sat in the gallery with 6 other victims who'd come forward, people I'd never met but whose faces reflected the same exhaustion, betrayal, and rage I'd been carrying for days. The teacher with MS sat to my left, a woman named Paulina who'd lost $164,000. The veteran with cancer sat 3 rows behind us, his daughter holding his hand. Sienna walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Without the designer clothes and careful makeup, she looked smaller. Ordinary. The confidence that had always radiated from her was gone, replaced by something harder, defiance mixed with barely concealed panic. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Amanda Reyes, laid out the charges with clinical precision. 19 counts of wire fraud. 11 counts of mail fraud. 7 counts of aggravated identity theft. 3 counts of money laundering. Conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. The list continued for nearly 5 minutes. Sienna's lawyer, an expensive-looking man named Richard Vance, argued for bail. Your Honor, Ms. Whitmore has deep ties to the community, no prior criminal record, and poses no flight risk. Your client has $890,000 in frozen accounts and evidence of offshore banking activity, Judge Patricia Morrison interrupted dryly. She's absolutely a flight risk. Bail denied. Remand to custody pending trial. Sienna's head snapped toward her lawyer, then to the gallery. Her eyes found mine. For just a moment, I saw something like desperation cross her face. Then it hardened into pure hatred. She mouthed something I couldn't quite make out, but the sentiment was clear enough. The trial took 8 weeks. I attended every day I could, sitting through testimony that ranged from heartbreaking to enraging. Paulina the teacher described how Sienna had befriended her during aggressive MS treatment, offered to manage her disability payments, then systematically drained them while Paulina's symptoms worsened. I thought I was losing my mind, Paulina testified, her voice shaking. I couldn't understand how I was so broke when I knew I'd had money. She told me MS was affecting my memory, that I was confused about my finances. The veteran, Marcus Webb, testified about trusting Sienna with his VA benefits and life insurance payout after his wife died. She came to the funeral, he said, crying openly on the stand. Brought flowers. Told me she'd make sure my kids were taken care of. Then she stole their college fund. Each victim's story was a variation of the same calculated cruelty. Target someone vulnerable. Gain their trust. Exploit their desperation. Steal everything. Owen testified on day 12. The prosecutor granted him immunity in exchange for full cooperation, which I still wasn't sure I agreed with, but I understood the strategic value. He detailed the fake illness extension, the clinical trial that never existed, his conversations with Sienna about maximizing insurance payouts. Did you understand what you were participating in was fraud? Prosecutor Reyes asked. Not at first, Owen said quietly. Sienna made it sound like we were just being smart about billing. But by month 5, yes. I knew it was fraud, and I went along with it anyway because I was afraid to lose the money. Afraid to lose stolen money. Yes. On cross-examination, Sienna's lawyer tried to paint Owen as the mastermind, suggesting he'd manipulated Sienna into the scheme. It didn't land. The evidence was too clear, too overwhelming. Sienna's own detailed spreadsheets showing 18 other victims predating Owen's involvement demolished any attempt to shift blame. I took the stand on day 15. Walking past Sienna to reach the witness box felt surreal. She stared at me the entire time, that hateful expression never wavering. Prosecutor Reyes walked me through everything: our friendship, Owen's diagnosis, Sienna's offer to help, the systematic deception, the moment I overheard the truth. What did you feel when you realized your best friend of 15 years had been stealing from you? Betrayed, I said simply. Not just by the theft, but by the calculation of it. She didn't steal from me in a moment of weakness or desperation. She planned it. Executed it over months. Watched me suffer and used that suffering to take more. Did she ever show remorse? No. Even after I confronted her, she insisted she'd earned the money. That she deserved compensation for helping me. She called it business. The jury's expressions told me everything I needed to know about how that landed. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous on all counts: guilty. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Judge Morrison's courtroom was packed: victims, FBI agents, reporters, and a surprising number of Cascadia Financial Group employees who'd come to bear witness to their former colleague's downfall. Sienna stood as the judge addressed her, her orange jumpsuit a stark contrast to the designer suits she used to wear. Her lawyer had advised her to show remorse, to apologize, to beg for mercy. She did none of those things. Ms. Whitmore, you systematically targeted 19 individuals and families during the most vulnerable periods of their lives, Judge Morrison began, her voice carrying the weight of institutional authority. You exploited medical crises, manipulated friendships, and stole approximately $3.1 million through calculated, premeditated fraud. Your actions weren't crimes of desperation or necessity, they were crimes of pure greed. The judge paused, looking directly at Sienna. What makes your crimes particularly egregious is the psychological manipulation involved. You didn't just steal money. You stole peace of mind from people who were already suffering. You made them believe they were financially ruined when you were actively ruining them. That level of cruelty deserves appropriate consequence. On the wire fraud charges, I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison. On the aggravated identity theft charges, a mandatory consecutive 2 years. On the money laundering charges, an additional 8 years to run concurrently. Total sentence, 17 years, with no possibility of parole before 14 years served. 17 years. Sienna's face went ashen. Her lawyer immediately started whispering urgent appeals strategies, but she just stood there, frozen. Additionally, Judge Morrison continued, you are ordered to pay $2.8 million in restitution to the identified victims, divided proportionally based on documented theft amounts. All seized assets will be liquidated and distributed accordingly. You will be under financial supervision for 10 years following your release. The gavel fell. It was over. As they led Sienna away, she finally looked back at the gallery. Not with hatred this time, but with something that might have been shock. The reality that she'd actually face consequences seemed to be hitting her for the first time. Paulina grabbed my hand as we watched Sienna disappear through the courtroom doors. 17 years, she whispered. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's something. The restitution process took 4 months. Between Sienna's frozen accounts, the seized Colorado property sale, and the liquidation of her luxury possessions, the FBI recovered $1.2 million, about 43% of what she'd stolen. It was divided among the 19 victims proportionally. My share came to $89,000. Combined with the $127,000 still in the medical account that hadn't been part of her direct theft, I had $216,000. Not the $400,000 we'd started with, but enough to rebuild. I met with the other victims at a community center in Northeast Portland 6 weeks after sentencing. Agent Okoye had helped coordinate it, not an official FBI function, just people who'd survived the same nightmare trying to figure out what came next. We sat in a circle like some kind of trauma support group, which I guess we were. Marcus the veteran. Paulina the teacher. A software engineer named Amit who'd lost his wife to ovarian cancer and $210,000 to Sienna. A single mother named Jessica whose son had leukemia. A retired librarian. An artist. A nurse. People from every background, united only by the fact that someone had predated on their pain. I keep waiting to feel better, Jessica said, her voice small. We got some money back. She's in prison. We won. But I just feel empty. Because money doesn't fix what she broke, Paulina said. She didn't just steal dollars. She stole the ability to trust people when we needed help. Amit nodded. After my wife died, I was drowning. Sienna threw me a life preserver, and I grabbed it because I was desperate. Now I'm drowning again, but this time I'm terrified to reach for anything because what if it pulls me under instead? The room fell silent. That fear, that bone-deep inability to trust, resonated with everyone. What if we became the life preservers? I said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at me. What if we created something that helps people navigate medical financial crises without predators like Sienna exploiting them? Marcus leaned forward. Like what? A nonprofit. Free financial advocacy for people dealing with medical emergencies. We know what the red flags look like now. We know how these schemes work. We could educate people, provide actual legitimate help, maybe prevent others from going through what we did. A support network, Paulina added, her eyes lighting up for the first time since I'd met her. Not just financial advice, but emotional support. People who understand what it's like to be targeted when you're vulnerable. Jessica pulled out her phone. My brother's a nonprofit lawyer. He could help us set up the structure. What would we even call it? We spent the next 2 hours brainstorming. By the end, we had a mission statement, a rough organizational structure, and a name, the Transparent Trust Foundation, because the best defense against financial predators was radical transparency and community. Owen could help, I said hesitantly. He's still a licensed physical therapist. He understands medical systems. And he owes something. Some kind of restitution for what he did. The group exchanged glances. You'd work with him again? Amit asked carefully. Not as my husband. That's over. But maybe as someone who can use his expertise to help fix what he helped break. It wasn't forgiveness. I wasn't sure I'd ever forgive Owen for his complicity. But it might be a path towards something useful. 8 months after Sienna's sentencing, I stood in front of a modest office space in Southeast Portland, keys in hand. The sign above the door read, Transparent Trust Foundation, in clean, professional lettering. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. The space had been donated by a local real estate developer who'd read about the case. Inside, we'd set up consultation rooms, a small resource library, and a reception area where volunteers could meet with people navigating medical financial crises. Paulina managed the educational programming. Marcus handled veteran outreach. Jessica coordinated support groups for families with pediatric illness. Amit built our website and database systems. And Owen ran our medical systems navigation program, helping people understand billing codes, insurance claims, and provider negotiations. He worked as a volunteer, donating 40 hours a week as part of his informal restitution. We weren't friends. We weren't even friendly. But we were functional, and that was enough. Our first client came through the door on a Tuesday morning, a woman named Claire whose husband had been diagnosed with ALS. She was drowning in medical bills, terrified of making financial decisions, and someone had just offered to help manage her assets. I sat across from her in our consultation room, seeing my own fear reflected in her eyes from 8 months ago. "Tell me about this person who wants to help," I said gently. She described a smooth-talking financial advisor who'd befriended her at a support group, offered to handle everything, asked her to sign power of attorney documents. Every single red flag we'd built our warning system around. "Here's what I want you to do," I said, pulling out our resource packet. "Don't sign anything. Bring us copies of any documents they've given you. We'll review them for free, explain exactly what they mean, and connect you with legitimate resources. And most importantly, you're not alone in this anymore." Claire started crying. I thought I was going crazy. Everyone kept saying I should accept help, that I couldn't do everything myself. But something felt wrong. "Your instincts were right. Trust them. Let us help you verify that trust before you give anyone financial control." By the end of our first month, we'd helped 17 families. By month 3, 52. Word spread through hospital networks, support groups, and social workers who'd seen too many vulnerable patients exploited. We partnered with patient advocacy organizations, medical social workers, and even some progressive insurance companies who realized fraud prevention was in their interest too. The work was exhausting and often heartbreaking. But it was also the first thing that made sense since my life exploded. 1 year after that lunch break when I'd overheard Sienna and Owen, I drove out to Laurelhurst. Not to our old house, I couldn't handle that yet. But to the neighborhood, the streets we'd walked, the life we'd built before everything collapsed. I parked near Laurelhurst Park and walked to the small rose garden where Owen had proposed 9 years earlier. It felt like a lifetime ago. A different person's memory. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, my brother, saw the Oregonian article about the foundation. Mom and Dad would have been proud. The article had run that morning, a feature about financial exploitation of medical patients and the victims turned advocates working to prevent it. They'd interviewed all of us, told our stories, explained how Sienna's case had revealed a much larger pattern of predatory behavior in the financial services industry. Several states were now considering legislation requiring additional oversight for financial powers of attorney. Cascadia Financial Group had implemented new client protection protocols. The FBI had launched a task force specifically targeting medical crisis fraud. Sienna's destruction had accidentally created something protective. Something good, even. I thought about her sitting in federal prison, serving year 2 of 17. I wondered if she understood yet what she'd actually stolen, not money, but dignity, security, the ability to grieve and heal without financial terror. Probably not. Narcissists rarely developed real self-awareness, even in prison. My phone buzzed again. This time Owen, first client of the day, just left. "We prevented another POA scam. Thought you'd want to know." I typed back, "Good work." That was the extent of our communication these days. Professional updates about the foundation. Logistical coordination about the divorce proceedings that were finally moving forward. Nothing personal. Nothing that acknowledged we'd once loved each other enough to build a life together. The life I was building now looked completely different. Smaller apartment. Modest car. A job I'd scaled back to part-time so I could focus on the foundation. No husband. No best friend. No illusions about people's fundamental trustworthiness. But also, a community of survivors who understood. Purpose that came from transforming pain into protection. The satisfaction of helping Claire and dozens like her avoid the nightmare I'd lived through. Was it the life I'd wanted? No. The life I'd wanted involved Owen recovering, us growing old together, maybe eventually having the kids we dreamed about. That future was gone, burned to ash by betrayal and lies. This life, the one I was actually living, was harder, lonelier, built on scar tissue instead of hope. But it was mine. Earned through surviving something that should have destroyed me but didn't. Built by choosing to transform rage into something useful instead of letting it consume me. I sat on the bench where Owen proposed, pulled out my laptop, and opened the draft of my victim impact statement from Sienna's trial. I'd been thinking about turning it into something bigger, a book, maybe, about financial exploitation and recovery. A resource for others navigating similar situations. The cursor blinked on the blank page. I started typing. I came home at lunch to check on my sick husband and overheard the secret that destroyed everything. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.